In this video, we will be discussing how to find the surface area of three-dimensional figures, particularly the surface area of prisms. Just like in the last chapter, in order for you to receive full credit on homework, warm-ups, tests, and quizzes, you must show all of your work. So that includes the formula, the substitution, and the final answer. So there are two types of surface area that we will be discussing throughout this chapter. The first type is called the lateral surface area, and the lateral surface area is the sum of the areas of each face, not including the bases or the base. Now the total surface area is the lateral surface area plus the area of each base. So the lateral area of a prism formula, just the general lateral area. Now there are lots of different types of prisms. Prisms are typically labeled by the shape of their base. So if you look at the diagram to the right, this would be an example of a rectangular prism because the base is a rectangle. We'll look at some other types of prisms a little bit later when we get to some of our other examples, but we're going to use this first one just to kind of talk about the different formulas. So the lateral area of a prism formula, and this goes for any type of prism, is equal to the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. Now, in a rectangular prism, sometimes it may be difficult to determine what the height is. So notice that in this particular example, one of the faces is shaded. Anytime it shades one of the faces, that means that face should be considered the base of your prism. If one of the faces is not shaded, then you get to decide which face you would like to make the base. So in this case, the right-hand face is our base. So that means that the side that is not included in the base, that would be our height. So actually this segment here is our height. It's almost as if the prism is on its side. So that would be considered the height. And then typically we label the other sides with the length and the width. So where does this formula come from? How did we know that to calculate the lateral area, we take the perimeter of the base and we multiply it by the height? Well, recall that the definition of lateral surface area is the sum of the areas of each face, not including the two bases. So we're not going to include the area of these two bases. If we were to calculate out the area of the other faces, there's two different types of rectangles. If we look at the front and the back rectangle, to calculate the area of those, we know that we have the height is the length of one side. So this would also be the same as the length of the height. And then L, the length of the shape, is going to be equal to the other side. So to calculate the area of that rectangle, I would take the length times the height. And since there are two of those rectangles, I'm going to multiply it by 2. Then I need to add the areas of the other two rectangles. The other rectangles are the ones on the top and the bottom. So I know one of the sides is equal to the height and the other side is equal to the width. So since there are two of those, I'm going to multiply it by 2 and then multiply the height times the width. So that would give me the lateral area of this prism. Notice that I can take out a greatest common factor of h. And then I'm left with 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Notice 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, that's equal to the perimeter of the base times the height of our figure. So that's where this formula comes from. So I like to use this formula because it's much easier for me to remember than this formula below. But both of them mean the same thing. So whatever works best for you, feel free to use. Now then, to calculate the total surface area of this prism, I'm just going to take the lateral area that I have calculated above and add 2 bases, 2 times the area of the base. So that capital B stands for the area of the base, since there are two of those. Prisms always have two bases, so that's why we always multiply 2 times the area of those bases. Or if you'd like to think of it as, we know the lateral area is the perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. So using these formulas, let's try some actual examples. So if we scroll down and look at example 1, it asks me to find the lateral area, the base area, and the total area. Again, notice one of the sides is shaded, so this would be equal to our base of our prism. So to calculate out that lateral area, I'm going to use my formula, the perimeter of the base times the height. Now again, this prism is on its side since the base is on the right-hand side, so this would be my height. And then to find the perimeter of the base, I would just add those 4 sides together. So 6 plus 4, plus I know this is 6 and this is 4, to get the perimeter. So the perimeter of this prism is 20. So I'm going to substitute 20 in for the perimeter of the base and then multiply that by the height, which is 10. So there's my substitution, and then my final answer is 200 units squared for the lateral area. Now, to calculate the area of the base, I know the base is a rectangle, so I'm going to use my formula base times height. And the base and the height of my rectangle are 6 and 4. So when I multiply those out, I get 24 units squared is the area of my base. Finally, to calculate out the total surface area, I'm going to take my lateral area and then I'm going to add 2 times the area of the base, since there are 2 bases in this prism. The lateral area I just calculated to be 200 plus 2 times the area of the base, which I just found to be 24. When I simplify this, I get 200 plus 48, and that gives me the final answer for the total surface area of the prism, which is 248 units squared. So what I'd like you to do next is flip to the back of the notes, try those next examples on your own using the same formulas, and then when you're ready to check your answers, move on to the next video to check to see how you did.